what happened 21 years ago. The Kargil War is the most recent example of high-altitude mountain terrain war. The Pakistani troops intruded 4 to 10 kilometers into the Indian territory and occupied 130 posts vacated by Indian Army during the winter. They tried to cut off Srinagar and Ladakh. The first incident took place when Captain Saurabh Kalia and 5 soldiers were killed while patrolling at Bajrang Post. On May 25, 1999, the Indian Air Force was deployed to play a major role in ultimate victory. Mirage 2000, MiG-21, MiG-23 fighters, MiG-25, Mi-17 helicopters and Jaguars were all used in blazing show of air power. Our Hyderabadi hero, Air Commander Mahendra Dev Khanna, Air Officer commanding No. 1 Wing, played a major role with this team. When the husband is in the midst of the battle, the wife waits for him to come home while she counts the stars in the ink black sky. Let us hear what Mrs. Shyamola Khanna has to say of her experience.
Hi, I'm Shyamola Khanna, wife of late Air Commodore Mahendra Dev Khanna. Who was Mahendra Dev Khanna? He was a year and 4 months old when, at the time of partition, the family lived in Lahore, but they migrated to Hyderabad. Of course, after having spent a couple of years in various other cities, they came to Hyderabad. Why Hyderabad? It was mainly because my mother-in-law's sister was married in Raja Krishan Prasad's family, and she said that it would be a comfortable place for them to move to. This is where he grew up, my Mahendra Dev Khanna. He grew up here speaking English, Telugu and Dakkani, not Hindi, because that was a different language altogether. I learned Hindi, proper Hindi, because I was brought up in North India. I brought up in Meerut. But we used to laugh over the Dakkani. We met while just after the 71 war, while the squadron was based in Srinagar, and it was destiny that we would meet because I was teaching in a school and the school had decided that they wanted to do a trip to Srinagar. It was very exciting times, and that's where we met, and we decided that we wanted to get married. Of course, my father, true born Brahmin, said, "Ye shadi nahi hogi." What? Well, he finally convinced my mother, and we had a proper wedding, and that's how we moved to Ambala after we got married. And after that, the excitement began. I had never flown, I had never traveled by train, everything came together. And it was excitement from day one. Living with this crazy, fun-filled life on an Air Force station in Ambala was a different ballgame altogether. It was beautiful. It was stressful, I guess, for those who took the stress. But for me, it looked like all these boys were just having a lot of fun. But I know, under it all, there was the stress of flying. They were flying gnats at that time. And the squadron finally moved once again to Srinagar. So we were there in Srinagar, and then finally somebody decided that my husband needed to get out of the gnats and move to the supersonics. So we moved to Jamnagar. So we moved to various places along the years, seen many people, had good fun, good times. And through it all, I know that my husband was a very loved person. The people he worked with, the youngsters, adored him. Of course, the seniors didn't much like him because he was very outspoken and very blunt. And I had to tell him, okay, calm down. Not to get too agitated, because seniors, I guess, don't like being told to their faces. So anyway, then we finally moved to Srinagar during the Kargil War. Of course, the Kargil War had not started, but by the time we came, reached Srinagar, there was a lot of tension all around. And knowing our friendly neighbor, who's always wanting a spat with India, these are things that were waiting to happen. But being in Srinagar during this war was a different experience altogether. Just being behind the scenes with this man who had no fixed time for meals, he had no fixed time for anything, no sleep, no nothing. He was forever there because the infrastructure, the logistics of lodging so many aircraft, so many squadrons, so many pilots, everything was there in Srinagar because Srinagar was the base from where all the flying took place. It was a fascinating time. And I took my job seriously, keeping the kids and the wives entertained. Because some of the wives would say, हमको भी जाना है, where are they based, कहाँ जा रहे हैं, हमको भी जाना है. And I would tell them, go ask the AOC. And AOC would be humming and hawing and saying, listen, you girls can't go there. You can't go there. You just stay out of this. And then they would keep quiet because they thought they would get their way with me. But it was okay. And of course, we entertained the children, kept them occupied with lots of fashion shows and games and stuff like that. They did theater and all. So by the end of the war, it was a very short-lived war. But by the end of it all, of course, we had that tragic incident of squad leader Ahuja getting shot. And then Nachiketa being caught in the crossfire, being imprisoned, us not knowing what state he was going to come back in. It was an experience that maybe not everyone can go through. It's not easy. But then I never found that my husband was bothered about that. He says it is duty. It is part of being alive. It's a part of what we are trained for. This is what our lives, all our lives we've been training for this, to be a part of this, and it's not fair to collapse under this kind of a situation. You can't. I said fine. I accepted it because there was no way that I could make a noise about it. So many an evening I sat on the lawns of the AOC's house. All the lights were switched off on the Air Force station. Once in a rare while, he would come and sit with me just to watch the stars up close because of the height. The stars are so bright. And all the lights were off so you could see them more vividly. That was Srinagar for us. And then very shortly afterwards, by the end of July, my husband was scheduled to leave. It was a very strange thing. One day he comes back and he tells me, Acha, packing karna shuru kar de. I said, what happened? He says, packing karna shuru karna. I said, क्या हुआ क्या है बताओ तो. नहीं टाइम हो गया जाने का. I said, तुमने क्या किया अभी? He says, नहीं मैं बोल दिया. I said, किसको बोल दिया? क्या बोल दिया? नहीं, the old man was trying to tell me that we shouldn't use up all this and it will be required when the bomb goes up. And I said the bomb has already gone up, and he didn't like it. Sure enough, 1 week later the posting orders came and we were out. We spent a couple of months in Delhi, in Western Air Command, and then it was time to go home, hang up the boots and come back home. Fortunately for us, our house was ready and waiting. So we came and settled in here in Hyderabad.